All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Evelyn, can you start with a roll call?
Trustee Lee,
Present.
Trustee King, Trustee Marquez. Here. Vice President Weekly is absent. President Wells.
Here. All right, I'm going to start with the report out on the closed session from today, February 5th, 2025. The board received information and no action was taken. Let's move on to our welcome. Good evening. Welcome to the February 5th, 2025 meeting of the Redwood City School District Governing Board. Bienvenidos. Si requiere interpretación al español, por favor llama al 978-990-5137 y presione 837-7041 y el signo de número. Si asiste a la reunión en persona, solicite una transmisión situada al fondo de la sala. Again, welcome. All members of the public are our partners in education, and the board encourages you to participate and provide comments on issues of concern, regardless of whether they are on the agenda. To speak, please complete a speaker's card online, or if you're here in person, you'll find them available at the entrance to complete. So fill one out and then hand it to Evelyn. If you're addressing a subject listed on the agenda, you'll be called on at the time that item is being considered. But if the issue is not on the agenda, you'll be called shortly during the oral communication agenda item. And then to be fair to all speakers, we limit public comments to 3 minutes per person per topic, unless otherwise noted. With that, I'll move on to changes for the to the agenda. I don't know if anyone has any additions, deletions, modifications. All right, with that, let's, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Great. Then we will move on to oral communication. We have a few speakers cards in person, and I saw at least one online. So we will start with the in-person to begin with, and I've got them numbered here. So to start with, Maria Stockton. Sorry, by the way, could you turn the microphone on? Yeah, it's the button that looks like a person, and the light will turn red. You got it. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Maria Stockton. I am the chapter president for CSEA Redwood City 5. That's California School Employees Association. And if you have not yet understood what a classified is, you take all the teachers out, all the administrator, everybody else who serves the children of this district are classified employees. So food service bus drivers, clerical, custodians, they're all mine. So I'm their new president for the next 2 years, so you get to hear from me every so often. So I'm here tonight to say yesterday we actually started negotiations. I think it was very fruitful, and today we did as well. And so I would like to thank my team, who is Shauna Ingersoll representing clerical, Mike McKinney, transportation, Ronnie Oseguera, custodians, Maria Bundes de Oy, food service, Rosario Gonzalez, paraeducators, and Yvonne Mendez for special services for doing such a great job. And we also want to thank the district representatives because we felt they listened to us, we listened to them, and it was very productive, I feel. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria, for your comments and for recognizing your team in the district. Let's see, our next speaker is Diana Escalante Ocon.
Hello, my name is Diana Escalante Ocon, and I've been the librarian at Adelante Selby for 14 years. I wanted to speak to the board members about the proposed reduction in our working hours and provide a clear picture of how my current schedule is utilized to support our students effectively. I understand that budget cuts are necessary, but it is important for me to share with you what my job entails. We have been told by numerous coworkers that the DO has reviewed our library schedules and has commented on our time that we don't see classes. This is why I'm here, to clear this miscommunication up. The empty spaces on my schedule are not times that I don't work. It's when I do most of my work throughout the day. Thursdays are not the day that I don't work. It's the day that I do everything that I cannot do throughout the week, essential tasks that directly benefit our students and the broader school community. There isn't 1 minute of my 7.5 hours a day that aren't working minutes. On a written schedule, you may see open blocks, but which include recess, lunch, and times that I am working around class availability. Currently, I see 20 classes a week. Lowest day is 4 classes, highest is 6. During the times that I don't see classes, I am doing ongoing library maintenance that involves shelving up to 300 books a day. I am cleaning up the shelves that even the best classes can demolish. I am processing books. Processing each book involves 7 steps and minutes for each book. For the Spanish books that I purchase, it can take up to 10 steps for each book. Spanish and Mandarin book processing is much more time consuming than English. Library maintenance involves researching and ordering, cataloging and processing, meetings and trainings, working on our own professional development, extensive book repairs, running reports, ongoing problem solving with our database, working on newsletters and my librarian Instagram page, being a mentor to our new librarians, reaching out to parents for late and lost books, and community engagement such as special events with the public library and author visits. These tasks underscore the importance of our current schedule as they are essential to the academic and social development of our students. Speaking for myself, reducing my hours would significantly impact my ability to perform these tasks effectively. I will not have the time to do most of these maintenance tasks next year. The district office wants to cut my hours from 37.5 down to 30 hours a week, basically eliminating 1 day a week. My favorite thing to do is plan vibrant and fun lesson plans, sometimes up to 4 different ones each week for different grade levels, teaching our students the beauty of literature and nonfiction. I have painstakingly worked on these lesson plans, which are not just a read aloud, but interactive activities using the smartboard for photos and videos, along with games to play that teach them correct library usage. I'm here to clarify that I use every minute of every day doing the job that I do. Today's library isn't just checking books in and out like the ones from the 80s. It's interactive, alive, and a constantly shifting experience. That's entirely up to me. I am able to accomplish a lot and build a strong library program for Adelante Selby students and staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane, for sharing your schedule and experience. Our next experience is Devin Malini. Our next speaker.
Good evening, board and everybody online at home. Hopefully a few of my students. I'm an 8th grade math and science teacher over at Hoover. And I got to say, the main reason I want to fill out the card and address all of you is my appreciation for our administration, for one thing. It's great to be at a place where I actually feel acknowledged and appreciated. I've been in other schools where that has been the opposite. And it makes it where, oh, okay, what I do counts. It matters. I get to go to work. That's one thing. The support staff, not just for our school, but throughout the district, is crucial. And I am grateful for them. And if they don't get the acknowledgement that they should, which they are working behind the scenes constantly up until 11 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock in the morning. I mean, you guys are eternal on all levels. It's appreciated. All right. And as far as Diane, my kids went to Adelante Selby. She remembered them by name. She remembered the books they checked out, would talk to them about the books they checked out, not looking it up. She knows her students. Nancy Valles at our school, fantastic, well organized, loving, and absolutely well informed when it comes to the information we have, the books available, what the students' needs are, and making extra bridges. She helped organize a field trip for our 8th graders to go to the Redwood City Library, get a tour of the facilities, get their library cards, and not just find out about books, about the teen center, about all of the extracurricular activities that are going on there, the maker space. They're invaluable. Please, please, please support them. So that's really why I want to speak today, just so that way there is a voice for a lot of us and a lot of directions, all in appreciation. Okay. Thank you for the time.
Thanks, Devin. I appreciate your comments and your appreciation of your colleagues. And then we have one more speaker and by the way, we have one more speaker for Hoover, but I'm going to save that one for the presentation there. So I'm going to go to the next general open communication one, oral comments with, this one's online. It's Megan O'Reilly Green.
Hello, everybody. My name is Megan O'Reilly Green. I have soon to be 4 children at the,
Is that
Can you hear me?
possible to get that to come over the speakers so that we can hear it?
can you hear me?
I think we have a workaround. Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do that. Okay, yes, go ahead, Megan. We'll start the 3 minutes over and we'll get going from there.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Megan. I have soon to be 4 children in the Orion Mandarin Immersion Program, and I'm just calling in today on behalf of the prospective MI families that have been recently attending board meetings. And I'm calling today to express my support for the recruiting efforts and the active placement of the desired classes for the Orion Co-op program. We are very gratified to have received placement for 3 TK classes of MI at Orion because this is the minimum number of classes needed across national MI schools to have a healthy cohort in middle school. However, we want to express that we know that skipping a class of enrollment is equally difficult for co-op as it is for MI, and we support the eventual placement of a second co-op TK class in the second round because they tend to have a different enrollment pattern than us, and they tend to have a lot of families expressing interest in enrolling in the second round. And so we wanted to express support for them and show our solidarity with them as we continue to recruit to fill out our MI classes. We really don't want this to be a competition for space or resources or classes, and I want to show that we support each other in doing what's best and what's right for our sister program. And also, I just want to point out that, this situation, this current imbalance and the anxiety that families have felt, this points to a missed opportunity, I think, in our community for the Orion Growth Committee to be presented with accurate data on growth. There was projected that we would lose 84 students. In fact, at present, I think we're gaining over 50 students across both programs, even if you account for the families that we expect to lose for North Star, which we're not going to lose everyone that applied anyway. And if co-op gets their second T class, which we expect, then we could stand to have almost 70 or 80 new students at that campus. So I'm calling to say that I hope that the community can be given a chance to process growth, the needed growth for MI, what's best for co-op, and talk about it as a community, because I think that that's important so that we can provide input on the outcome of growth and the effect that would have on each respective program. Thank you guys so much. And thank you so much for all the classified staff. We know how hard you guys work, and I want to express my support for you too.
There's no audio coming through remotely.
There's no audio coming through remotely. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, but we cannot hear what's happening in the boardroom.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll just mute myself.
Mike, Dr. Baker, we cannot hear you online.
All right. Now it's going to echo here. Hang on, we're just having a little bit of technical difficulty. Okay, good. We're in good shape. It'll be hard for us to hear people online, but I think we can make it through from there. Okay, so that was it for oral communication. We're going to move on to the bond program consent items. And so 9.1 is approval of all the items. Can I have a motion to approve? Oh, yeah. Do you want to do your clarification if it wasn't caught? Yeah, sorry about that. We're going to go back and let Dr. Baker just clarify one thing from oral comments.
Okay, sure. Some talk through yours. So I don't understand where the miscommunication came from because there is a second TK for the Orion Co-op. It was never stated that that was not going to exist. Principal Winnie at this point in time is doing additional tours. She's doing additional applications at the time when she's doing tours with families. So I just don't know where this miscommunication came from. That was never stated from the district office.
Thanks. And now I'm going to, Carlos, you want me to try the microphone again? Okay, I'm going to try to switch back. Trustee Weekly, can you hear me? Yes, okay, great. We're back in business here. Okay, so moving on to the bond program consent items. Is there a motion to approve the bond program consent items?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Great. Let's move on to bond program action items. This is 10.1, approval of the agreement for rental and purchase of mobile air conditioning units.
Good evening. Tonight we have Jen Gibb from VPCS joining us in the audience and Eric Van Pelt from VPCS joining us online. And I'm going to show the presentation and turn it over to them.
Thank you so much for having me. I am Jennifer Gibb. I'm the program manager supporting Measure S. And tonight we have an item on for the purchase of temporary air conditioning units at our sites. So if you go to the next slide, just a little update in the next slide. On Measure S, we the board approved the architecture contract in November of 2024 for upgrades of our HVAC units district-wide. In 2025, this coming summer, we plan to replace the HVAC units and install new units at 4 sites, Adelante Shelby, Hoover, Roosevelt, and Taft, and continue the design process for the remaining district sites for an implementation and installation in 2026 and the following summer 2027. If you go to the next slide, tonight there was an item for approval for the purchase of some units and also the rental of some units. So we did a cost benefit analysis of what it would cost to supply the district with all units being rented and then also a portion of the units being purchased. So before you now, you can see that we've looked at the current 2025 sites. That would be a rental cost of $205,000 to get those rented for a few months, 2 to 3 months, and then replace the units during the summer for those 4 sites. And then rental units for the next 4 sites for all sites for 4 sites for 15 months and then another 4 sites for 27 months. That brings the total, and we did have some contingency applied just because the pricing of units can go up. And so we wanted to make sure that we were covered for that. That would bring, if we rented all the units, we'd be requesting $2.7 million with Measure S bond funds. If you go to the next slide, we looked at the cost to rent some of the units and then purchase the remaining units. So rental of 130 units, because that would be a short-term rental for the units that we are preparing for replacement this summer. So the continued $205,000 for that. And then a purchase of 178 units, which is significantly lower. It's $610,000 for the all the remaining 8 sites. We have 10% contingency, and bringing that total would be under $1 million at $896,000. There's 2 different type of units. Those, because of the opportunity and the mass purchasing of a large quantity of units, we looked at providing all those units this spring, that we were needed to have 2 different types of units. There's similarity in their function. It's just that with getting 178 units in a couple months, we need to be flexible with that. Another opportunity that we are utilizing here tonight is also the purchase of these units under a piggyback contract. And that would be, that is something the district has participated in the past. You've participated in an Omnia contract under public contract code. I just have to make sure I say the right one. Excuse me, public contract code 221-118. It's a public contract code that districts are allowed to utilize with mass purchasing a piggyback. The piggyback purchase would be purchasing those under a selection process that another district has already gone through, which was a competitive process, and you're utilizing that for the purchase of your units. So that was the procurement process that we would like to move forward with. If you go to the next slide, we'd recommend purchasing these units, doing a portion, which was the rental for the 4 sites that we're going to use this summer, and then the remaining purchase of the 178 units for the consecutive summers. And with that, can answer any questions of the board.
All right, thank you for walking us through that. I do have did anyone have like a quick clarifying question before we get into discussion? There's one public speaker, so I can take that next. No, okay. And then our public speaker is for 10.1, Carl Anders.
All right, I think I'm unmuted. Trustees, thanks for hearing me this evening. I think normally you take public comment after you discuss, but I'm
right,
fine to go
hang on,
first.
Carl. We couldn't quite hear you. I'm going to try turning
on. Okay.
He's crystal clear online, just so you know.
As are you.
Carl, go ahead and give it a try again.
How about now, Mike? Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay. I happy to speak tonight on this topic. Trustees, I'm a big fan of spending money in our schools. I'm working on the Citizens Parcel Tax Initiative to hopefully bring more money to the district. Big fan of spending bond money. Big fan of HVAC upgrades. We've heard so many teachers complain about the hot classroom, so this will be great in the spring, and it's going to be great when this is permanently done. So big fan of portable AC. This is great. It's a perfect interim solution. My question is really about charging rental costs for 2 to 3 months for some of the units to the bond fund. I don't think that's a proper use of bond money. And rather than argue that point, though, the point that I'd like to make this evening is just to think about the bond spending. This is my suggestion. Not can we spend this as bond money, but should we spend this as bond money? And I think the way to think about that is the bargain that was cast with the taxpayers is we're going to get $300 million for Measure S. You taxpayers will pay that back over 30 years in the first tranche at a 4% interest rate. So every dollar that you spend for Measure S costs the taxpayers, us, $3.40 over the next 30 years. And so when you think about, hey, should we rent an air conditioning unit for 2 to 3 months and then pay for it over 30 years at 3 times the cost? It just doesn't make sense. I think the taxpayers want you to build beautiful classrooms and libraries and STEAM facilities with that money, and I fully support that. Now, I know a rental makes sense, and so maybe you just pay for that out of the general funds. If instead you want to buy all the units, that's fine too. Now the taxpayers have a capital asset that you've acquired, and when they're no longer needed, maybe the district can sell them and get some money back. That's great. But please don't use bond money that we have to pay for 30 years on a 2 to 3 month rental. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Carl. Okay, great. Thanks, Carl. Before we move into board discussion, just Rick, to kind of follow up on that comment, can we use a different funding source for the rentals? Well, I agree that this is kind of bundled together as the same project. It might be clearer if it had a different funding source for the rentals only.
Excuse me. Yeah. Good evening. Yes, we can use a different funding source. We could use a different facilities fund, Fund 25 or 35 to pay for the rental costs.
And so if we were to proceed with this action tonight, that would be part of it, having a different funding source for the rentals and then the bond money for the purchase of the capital asset.
Yes, I certainly can be.
Okay.
Yes.
Then with that clarified, I'd like to open up to any of the trustees here who want to, if they have questions or comments.
Quick comment from me, online, Trustee Weekly here. I really
Okay.
appreciate, can you guys hear?
Um,
me? Hello? Thumbs up, can you hear me?
He can't. make
Okay,
the
David,
vote.
you got to hang on a second. I can turn the line. Can he
He can speak, but if you're going to take a vote, he doesn't.
he doesn't get to vote, right? Yeah.
I understand that I don't get.
Okay,
to
so
vote.
I think
Yeah.
I've got the volume on for you, David. Try it now.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yes, I'm seeing nods. Okay, awesome. I just wanted to thank the district staff for the rigorous analysis here about whether it made sense to rent versus buy and which tranches to rent versus which tranches to buy. There was further email correspondence where there's clarification about what we do with the purchased temporary units at end of life. And just I feel like the staff approached this in a really thoughtful way to go and minimize the cost impact while making sure to respond timely to the urgent needs that we've heard from teachers, from parents, et cetera, to have air conditioning available before it starts getting hot again. So it's just a note of thanks.
All right, thanks, David. Yeah, and I agree. I mean, ensuring a comfortable learning environment is critical for students' focus and well-being. We heard a lot of that, especially in the hot months at the beginning of the year. And so getting something in place for the spring and early summer, and then the long-term improvements that are coming is going to be great. And again, I like David. I totally appreciate the hybrid approach and the way that you're looking at it. It seems really thoughtful and cost-effective. And to be able to address a cost-effective way to address the immediate needs and keeping the long-term fiscal responsibility, kind of in mind. With that, I guess we can go ahead and see if I can get a motion to approve. Remember with the change in funding sources for the rental.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. This is on, okay, so we have a speaker in the room on this one just before it finishes, so we'll take it. Devin Mullaney.
Hello again. So I'm unfortunately haven't been keeping close tabs on the air conditioning discussion, promotions and whatnot. Thank you very much. Enough of being in ovens. It gets a little toasty during the summer or spring or even early fall. Something to consider, especially with the portable units. Right now, I've got 34 students in each of my classes. We max out at 35. They're eighth graders. They're pretty much, some of them are really in adult bodies already. Having another thing on the floor in the room taking up space sounds a little challenging. So I don't know if we can get those up top and actually have the units on the roof permanently would be optimal. That's my only concern. Otherwise, yes, please, air conditioning. That's it.
They will. It's Hoover. Hoover will get them.
And Hoover is one of the first schools to get the
Yes.
permanent one. So the temporary, so the temporary for Hoover would be just for this spring, and then HVAC will be upgraded over the summer, and you'll come back to, you won't even have a unit in there, not mounted on the ceiling or on the floor. So, but thank you for the comment. I appreciated hearing it. We did hear a lot from the community, parents, staff, in the classroom, out of the classroom, about the real need for this improvement. So appreciate it. All right, let's move on to school and community reports. We're going to start with 11.1, the financial and performance audits for the building funds.
Excuse me. Good evening again. Tonight we are presenting under 11.1 the financial and performance audit for both Mazer TNS. Joining me tonight is our lead auditor from E. Bailey. And I'll let him introduce himself. I'll say Ahmad, and I don't want to butcher his last name, but he's here to present the audit to the board.
Thank you. Good evening. Name is Ahmad Goraibe. I know it's a little difficult to pronounce, but tonight you have the annual financial report for the district. And along with that is Measure S and T. So Rick, are these a separate agenda item or are they together?
S&T are one item, and then the next item is the district's audit.
And we're starting out with the S and T?
Yep.
I see. And so S and T is a little bit different than the districts. It's ensuring that the financial statements of those two measures are fairly stated and they are segregated from the district's funds. And along with that, you are required to have a performance audit per Proposition 39, which is effectively a compliance audit, ensuring that the expenses are in compliance with what the voters had voted on. And so it's a two-segment type of audit. The financial aspect of it, we confirm the receipts, we confirm your cash, your bond proceeds, we test the expenses, and we make sure that the amounts are fairly stated with respect to those two measures. And then with respect to the performance audit, we sit with your project managers, we take a look at the expenses, we make sure that these expenses are in accordance with what the voters had voted on. And I'm pleased to let you know that those two measures did not have any exceptions, adjustments, or findings, and we issued a clean opinion on both the financial statements and the compliance or the performance audit. And with that, I'll be more than happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ahmad, for the presentation and the audit. Do any of the trustees have any questions, comments?
I just want to say thank you. I know it takes a lot of hours for you guys to go through it, and so finding with the fine comb or however you say it. So I appreciate all the work that you guys do, and I'm happy to hear that there was no findings.
Yeah, likewise, and congratulations to the district. I mean, there's multiple levels of oversight on this tax money that the voters have entrusted in the district. And it's nice to see that this one check, the audit, has come through clean, as does the oversight committee. So this is an action item, so we need a motion and a second to approve. Oh, David, sorry.
Sorry, no, just to clarify, I did see, and I think you answered this, but there was language about management override of controls being a significant risk. I think what you mentioned was that this is standard language. Is that correct?
Yes, we are required to tell you a few things in that letter that you saw in there. And one of these things is what we did in terms of the audit. And we always look at management override. This is just the standard procedure, making sure that there are procedures in place in there to ensure that the internal controls are adhered to, your policies are adhered to. So we perform policies, we perform a test of those procedures to lower that risk. This is a required communication that we are required to tell you about.
In other words, it's not unusual for this to be something flagged.
This is standard for all audit clients.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion?
Do we take motion for this one, or is it just information?
Is this, I thought it was under action item. Is this information? Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. This is not an action item. You're right. This is just a community report. Thanks.
Just presenting to.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, great. Then let's move on to the next item.
And so this is for the full district audit.
All right, and so this is the annual financial report for the district. It is a process that started the early part of the year. We split the audit into multiple phases. We go out to the sites. We perform a test during the interim phase of the audit. That's the process or the phase in which we take a look at the manner that you process receipts, the manner that you process disbursements, the manner that you process payroll. We want to see internal controls. We look at those internal controls and we want to make sure that there's segregation and review process. And then we wait for management to close the books and come in after the fact. And it's effectively a confirmation process. Management presents to you the unaudited actuals. And again, we come in after the fact. We confirm it with your creditors, with your bankers, with the state, with your grantors. It's just the process of confirming the amounts that are reported on the financial statements. You also are required to have a federal compliance audit and a state compliance audit. And so those are additional items that we audited during the scope of the audit. And I'm pleased to let you know that the district received a clean opinion on these financial statements, and they received a clean opinion on federal compliance. There's a finding in there related to the state compliance, which is a repeat finding from the prior years. It's a common thing that we're seeing out there in the Bay Area. And I do want to thank the district's management. I mean, again, it's a confirmation process, so they connected us with all the external parties that ensures so that we can ensure that these financial statements are fairly stated. It's a confirmation process again. And with that, I'll be more than happy to take any questions.
All right, I'll turn to the trustees again. Do you have any questions or comments?
Another clarification just on the second finding. I think you mentioned that for a district this size, it's not uncommon, or sorry, a district of this type, it's not uncommon to have a internal control system that's not quite as robust. I just clarification, when you do find districts that have a more robust internal control systems, what are the characteristics of those types of, like larger, or what does that look like?
Yes. And so this is not really unusual for this district because we're seeing it quite often with some of these districts. And so if there are adjustments to the financial statements, and this is what causes the finding, and normally you see this due to, I'm going to say, I don't know, but it's turnover that typically happens here and there. And so some district does indeed have a reconciliation process, does have the internal control procedures that they need to have in there. It's just sometimes it's staffing shortages. And so that's why we come in after the fact again and so if there's an adjustment in there were a couple of adjustments there to make sure that, the numbers line up with, as I mentioned before, the confirmations. And so it was reported to you that there were adjustments and then therefore the internal controls at the district level. I mean, we come in as like the very last step, but we would like it to see that the district has, fully implemented those requirements. Again, the district does have the internal control procedures in that. They do have the reconciliation process, but I think it was just probably turnovers, what we heard with respect to those adjustments.
Jennifer, Cecilia? Everyone's good. All right. Well, thanks. Thanks, Rick, for you and your office. I know that last couple of years have had various vacancies that you're working with, but a great job on keeping high quality work. So appreciate it. Great. I think we can move on if everyone's done. Yeah. All right. Great. Outstanding. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, our next item in the school and community reports is, I think we'll start, are we starting with Hoover? Okay, we'll start with, it's the Hoover and Roy Cloud School presentations. I'll pass it off to Anna to guide us
So
through.
tonight we have our Hoover admin team who'll be presenting their board presentation. Thank you for the team for being here. Turn this on. I know there's a lot of your teachers are online.
Yes, oh, great. Thank you. Thank you, staff. We love you. Good evening, trustees, cabinet, Dr. Baker. Thank you for having us. My name is Lupe Guzman. I am the principal at Hoover Community School, and with me we have.
Good evening, John Michael Gomez, assistant principal, one of the assistant principals, and this is my third year at Hoover.
I'm Josh Griffith. I'm the Dean of Students at Hoover this year. Nice to see you all.
Did it work? Okay. In 2022 and 2023, we entered ATSI with red indicators in the areas of language arts, mathematics, and English learners. By 23-24, we exited with growth in English language arts, chronic absenteeism, and suspension rates. No? Try again. To your computer? Thank you. The progress of English learners increased, moving to yellow with an improvement of 11.2%. Chronic absenteeism overall has shifted to orange with a decrease in chronic absenteeism rate of 6.4. In October of 2023, we had 638 students, and by the end of the school year, the number grew to nearly 700. Typically, we receive between 50 to 100 students new to the school after the start of the year. In the past month alone, we welcomed approximately 15 students, most of them who are new to the country. Of our population, 97% are categorized as economically disadvantaged, 67% are English language learners, and 96% are Latinx descent. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Gomez.
All right. So as you know, this highlights RCSD's LCAP goal number 1, which under the MTSS umbrella and with SEL supports, Hoover is currently working on improving our student outcomes, working on reducing chronic absenteeism, increasing overall attendance, and lowering our suspension rates. So these efforts reflect Hoover's commitment to equity, engagement, and a positive school climate, which we're about to discuss tonight.
And this graph and the next illustrate what John Michael just explained about our chronic absenteeism. I don't know how to newfangled things. Let's see here. As you can see that we've gone down to 20% by December from 2021 to 22, 37.7% down to 20.5%, which is significant. And by student group, you can also see that we've our chronic absentee rate has gone way down. And specifically, if you can look at the subgroup, they're called homeless on this particular thing, but we call them the housing insecure. So we've been doing a pretty good job of meeting, bringing down the chronic absenteeism. And I think the definition of a chronically absent student is, I think it's like 2 or 3 absences per month. And we're really working hard, making phone calls, which we'll talk about in a few minutes.
So this slide here highlights the comparison rates of our suspensions. So as you can see, over the past 4 years, our suspension rates have dropped dramatically, rising from last year at 4.3% to currently 0.3%, which is a huge decrease. And so just to kind of give you a little perspective, at this time last year, we had 25 students who had been suspended, and currently we're only at 4. So definitely some increase there. We believe this progress is a result of intentional efforts through our PBS and our SEL program implementation, restorative practices, and building a strong culture of belonging to equity, relationships, and community support at our school.
One of the things that we're really working hard on now is the attendance. And our attendance protocols follow the district guidelines for attendance outreach, with our attendance team working at all tier levels, tiers 1, 2, and 3. We do tier 1 monthly messaging to families through school messenger, flyering, teacher communication, cafecitos, and principal newsletters. We are using the attendance tracking tool Safe Arrivals to notify parents of unreported absences, and attendance intervention platform School Status to notify families when their students have become truant or have excessive unexcused absences. Also for tier 2, school staff, including the office, assistants, MTSS, TOSA, and family center staff, we spend hours each week calling the families of students who are approaching or are at chronic absenteeism levels to encourage them to send their kids to school and to offer support. For tier 3, thanks to the CCSSPP grant, we have the Dean of Students, me, who provides individualized supports to students and families who are struggling to get to school consistently. I have families who are struggling to get to school, and so I have a caseload of up to 15 kids at a time. I work with them. I make home visits. I do phone calls. I reach out to the parents. I meet with the students. We do quite a bit of work just to make sure the kids get to school on time. If they're sick, of course, we want them to stay home, but there are many other factors involved. So I think that's about it for that particular slide, or for that part of my slide.
Sorry, we keep dancing around here. Through PBIS, we have established clear behavioral expectations and strengthened collaboration via our PBS and SL team, now that we call it the School Climate Committee. Our partnership with Circle Up has enhanced restorative practices, and our Dean of Students provides targeted interventions for those needing extra support. On the SEL side of things, we're in our 2nd year of implementing our current curriculum. For TK through 3rd grade, we're currently using Komochis. 4th and 5th graders, we have Child Mind Institute coming in to provide some SEL workshops. And then our middle school is currently using what we call the program, We Do It for the Culture. Our lead counselor, Miss Heather Springs, and her team offer coaching and tiered mental health supports. This year, we also welcome our CBITS trauma-informed counselor for additional SEL needs. We foster a positive school climate through events like Winterfest, our Ruby Bridges March, and Kindness Week, which we just held last week. And then this year, we have started a service learning requirement for middle school students, which encourages students to get back to their community. To assess school climate and belonging, our MTS leadership team has developed a universal SEL screener because we like data, right? Results have been overwhelmingly positive so far, with 93% of students, 85% of teachers, and 75% of parents reporting strong friendships at school. 100% of teachers, 90% of parents, and 85% of students believe teachers care about students. And finally, 86% of students like the way they are. So as a community school, we support families through the Family Center, expanding safety net services with the food pantry, Thrive program, and a dedicated family partner. So we believe this relationship-driven approach has led to fewer suspensions, like we mentioned, improved absenteeism, and a strong school community where all students and staff feel supported and connected.
LCAP goal 2 by June, and you can all read this, of course, but I'll read it out loud anyway. By June of 2027, 55% of 2nd to 8th grade English learners will progress by a minimum of 1 level on the LPAC each school year, as measured by the summative LPAC assessment, which actually we just started yesterday, I think, for this year. We're going to increase our reclassification rate to 20% and decrease our at-risk long-term English learners from 30% to 10%. As you can see, let's see here. Okay, we've already said all that. Let me go to the next slide if I can. And you can see that we've seen, various levels of growth and decreases, but what you can see is that in first, second, fifth, and sixth grades, there was an increase, a growth, and there was decrease in third, fourth, seventh, and eighth grades. And we do speculate that there was a learning curve kind of adjusting to the new district ELD curriculum, and perhaps the group testing was not as effective as we had hoped. Ms. Guzman will speak about what we were doing to ensure that our students continue moving forward this year. So if you can take a look at that, you can see that 80% of the kindergartners showed at least 1 level of growth, but there's been some up and down, but overall, there's been growth. So
I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're currently supporting our multilingual learners. Like we mentioned earlier, 67% of our student population are defined as English language learners. So this year we continue to strategically align our grade level schedules to ensure that designated ELD instruction is effectively integrated across all elementary classrooms. And then in grades 3 through 5, we are circling and the groups are tailored to students' proficiency levels. Additionally, we are providing small group pull-out support for our international students in grades 3 through 5, while students in grades 6 through 8 are participating in our Newcomer Academy, led by one of our newcomer teachers. Currently, we're also supporting 91 recent international students, and so that number also continues to grow each week. Last year, teachers across all grade levels were implementing Language Power, which is our new ELD curriculum, to strengthen the foundational language skills for our English language learners. And then this year, we're refining those instructional practices, implementing the curriculum with greater fidelity, and incorporating TCM strategies learned through demo lessons and coaching sessions with our TOSA or our coaches at our site. And then to further enhance our instruction, our ELD coach, Ms. Lucero Moreno, has been providing direct support to classrooms, ensuring that teachers have the resources and guidance needed to differentiate instruction effectively. And then on the middle school side, multilingual students are receiving additional targeted support through what we call TIG, or targeted instructional grouping, which meets 4 times a week, where they're working on strengthening phonics and reading comprehension skills by placing students in groups based, again, on their individual learning needs. And so with these supports and interventions and coaching, we continue to have opportunities to develop language proficiency and academic success among our multi-language learners.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. All right, and we're going to go on to LCAP goal number 3. And I will quickly summarize it because I'm sure you know it really well. So again, by June of 27, we aim that for all our students to be at least a 4% annual increase in ELA and in math on iReady. Additionally, we set a goal for 20% of English learners in grades 3rd through 8th grade to meet and exceed standards in ELA, and 16% in math. There we go. Our proficiency rates have declined in recent years due to changes in student demographics and an influx of guest teachers, interns, and teachers new to the profession. We love you all. Given these factors, a short-term drop in the data is unavoidable. With 96% of our students qualifying for free and reduced lunch and 182 self-reported McKinley-Vento cases, we're actively working to meet the diverse needs of our evolving population. 17% of our economically disadvantaged students, 4.8% of our English learners, and 17.5% of our Latinx students met or exceeded proficiency on SBAC. Student performance Student performance on the Fall iReady showed limited understanding of grade level standards, and we used this data to inform the PLCs and instructional practices for this school year. Like in the area of ELA, our students have declined in math. 12.5% of our economically disadvantaged students, 5.7% of our English learners, and 13.3% of our Latinx students met or exceeded proficiency in math on the SBAC. And we see similar trends in math as we do in ELA. We also believe that a cohort fluctuation has something to do with the grade level experience. So when we had more established grade levels, teachers who have been at Hoover, who know the culture, we have seen that students do better than when we have newer cohorts or a group of teachers that is working together for the first time. All right. And again, on iReady, we also saw limited growth and a huge opportunity for us to help our students reach proficiency. All right, so I have a lot to say, so bear with me. We have worked very closely with our district coaches, with Ana Herrera, Catherine, and of course our site to come up with a comprehensive action plan. Again, with 96% of our students who are economically disadvantaged, we face significant challenges such as 20% chronic absenteeism rate, a 13% self-identified housing insecurity. This is that we know of. And to address these issues, we have adopted a multifaceted strategy that targets both academic and the whole child. We continue to emphasize phonics, math, and English language development curriculum that was introduced last year. And due to the shift in our teacher demographic, 25 out of the 38 classroom teachers have been at Hoover less than 18 months. Teachers are receiving additional, support from our literacy and ELD specialists, our TOSAs, and of course our wonderful district coaches that have just poured in so much support to help us implement our programs consistently. For grades TK through 5, our instructional schedule has been designed to include dedicated times for foundational skills, small group instructions, and ELD, ensuring dedicated intervention periods. So it's sacred time every day that teachers follow. Each grade level circles for ELD and targeted reading groups for grades 1st through 5th grade on a daily basis. And we're also included phonics instruction for students learning to read in grades 3rd through 6th grade. Additionally, teachers are expected to conduct math instruction in small groups 3 times a week, And this has been a little more challenging because our new math program is very different for a lot of our folks. So there's a huge learning curve there, and we are working very closely with them, and they are eager and implementing and teaching themselves how to do math the new way. During targeted reading instruction, our reading specialist, Susie, and our district coach, Laura, pull groups, which helps reduce the student-to-teacher ratio and facilitates more personalized instruction. Our after-school supports include CAP tutoring, air reading, Costco tutoring, and after-school teacher tutoring program. Our multi-tiered system of supports, MTSS team, meets twice a month because we have a lot of work to do for an hour and a half each of those days, and focuses on our professional learning communities. We have established regular inquiry cycles, classroom walkthroughs, and goal-setting meetings to track progress, share best practices, and adopt interventions as necessary. Coaching at both district and site levels ensures that new and experienced teachers receive ongoing support to build effective instruction and differentiate learning practices. Moreover, we have paired incoming teachers with coaches. These coaches model lessons, facilitate peer observations, and engage in coaching cycles centered on best practices. So we are pouring in support to our teachers so that we can build capacity. And of course, we have to recognize and celebrate our student achievement because that's an integral part of motivating and fostering a positive school culture. We highlight growth through student recognition for academic achievement and progress at school-wide assemblies and celebratory events that acknowledge student efforts, reinforcing the value of hard work and perseverance. So we have to have fun and make sure that our kids love school. And so we want to acknowledge that the complexity of our student population and recent staff changes may present short-term challenges, as reflected in our data. Our commitment to a structured, data-driven approach, targeted instructional support, and continuous professional development provides a solid foundation for sustainable academic growth. We are dedicated to continuously monitoring and adaptive planning, along with community and family engagement, which is essential in our community schools, to ensure that every student has opportunity to succeed. Our goals encompass the whole child, aiming to increase proficiency rates in core subjects, reduce absenteeism, and ultimately improve SBAC scores. Thank you. Oh, I want to show you some pictures of the fun we have at Hoover. So we have pictures here at our Fall Fest with families and our middle schoolers doing community service, a Ruby Bridges walk where our students all created a pledge for equity and inclusion. You can see our staff Halloween costume. We were all Super Mario Brother characters because we're leveling up this year. We have kids showing off their Husky Paws for our Husky Mart store. Our students got to go to Sequoia to see the play, and so that was a lot of fun. Honk, that's right, that was a lot of fun. On this corner, you see our student election, so kids voting, and that coincided with our national election. And then we have a picture of our chill zone where our students can go and regulate when they're struggling. Pictures of our, Winterfest, recognition of our veteran folk, our music program playing at our Winterfest, and just a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lupe, Josh, and John Michael. Really appreciate the presentation. We do have two speakers for your, and we had the earlier one too, Devin. So I'd like to ask Larry Broussard to make the next set of comments.
Hello, my name is Larry Broussard. They call me AKA Google Gaga at the school. The whole school from TK to 8th grade. I've been in the school system since I was 18 in San Francisco. And I came to Redwood City. I've been here ever since. Amanda was here. Volunteered since 2015. And I still volunteer, but I'm on the payroll. But other than that, my heart goes out to your team members from the district's office. From Wendy to John, Evelyn, a lot of people's names I will remember. Erin, she's with her new baby. I commend you guys. You guys do a wonderful job. But at the end of the day, nobody knows how you feel because they're not in your shoes. They don't have no idea what you got to go through here. It's a job. It's hard work. It gets stressful. I can imagine. But you guys do a wonderful job from the ministry, from the whole team. And I just wanted to say to my Hoover family, the whole team, this young lady, hard work. She may be short, she don't play. John, Michaels, I'm getting kind of old. Josh and his wife, they're a team. I wish his wife could come to Hoover. But back in the day, I volunteered at her school. I've been volunteering for many years. I'm not going to never stop. I'm trying to catch up with Mr. I. But when I get his age, I'm come to the school just like him. But what I worry about the school is called safety. And I say it all the time. And I know they have a budget there, but still they can get donations. What I need some safety stuff out there. Reflexible stop signs, slow down signs, cones. I used to donate, get on Amazon and get the little cones. But you know what? It's called safety. I do ride-alongs with the police department, and they gave me some cones. It's a wonderful team there, Redwood City Police Department. I've been doing that for many years in San Francisco. When I met Miss Castro, she talked so good about me, not knowing that I worked in San Francisco. She said, "What school did you work at?" Charles Drew. She worked in San Francisco. She knew everybody that I knew, the administration, my boss. But you know what? I've been in the system since I was 18. And I love the community here. But I worry about safety because some of the kids get there. I used to get up there at 6 o'clock in the morning. Kids, the parents drop them off. They have to go to work. But it's called safety. Safety at that crosswalk. And I don't want to never see it. Other than that, I need some support cones, not the small ones, the bright ones, reflectable ones. Because when it gets daylight saving time, it's night out there. Then also, this young man right here got a wonderful team. A wonderful team. You guys do a wonderful job. When things happen, you guys are always there. The flood in the gym, the flood in the
Larry, I'm
administration office.
gonna have to cut you off because that was the 3 minutes. But
I
really appreciate
thank
your
you.
comments
I
and
love
your
you
appreciation
guys.
of the staff. Yeah, it's just
Thank you so much
for the comments. Yeah.
But I need those
Yeah.
cones.
Yeah.
Thank you. God
Thank
bless
you.
you.
Thank you. All right, our next speaker is I think this is Laura Lentz. I hope I got your last name right. I couldn't quite read it.
Yeah.
Lentz, great.
Good evening. I'm Laura Lentz. I'm a proud Hoover Husky. Fairly new to the pack. I just joined Hoover last year, and I've taught many, many years. And I just want to say this is the most challenging job I've ever had in my career. And I feel very compelled to just express my appreciation for not just the administrative team who I don't know how they do all the things that they do. There's never a time you'll walk by one of their offices and they don't have a child in there that they are counseling or that they are reprimanding or that they're working with, that they're helping, that they're improving. They're so dedicated to the kids. It's just very heartwarming. But aside from that, also the faculty that I work with, the teachers that I'm side by side with every single day working, when we get together, when we have those 5 seconds of free time and we're chatting about something, we're putting our heads together about like, what can we do? What can we do? how can we fix this? Why isn't this working? What would I do wrong? What can we do better? What are you doing? I don't know. What are you doing? We're constantly sharing ideas. It's a very hardworking team that I'm just so impressed by all of them. Everybody is so dedicated at Hoover. So I just wanted to express that because I feel really fortunate to be there, even though I cry every day. It's a wonderful place to be. And I just hope that everyone at this table realizes how incredibly dedicated and hardworking our team is. And that is all. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Laura, for sharing your experience and your appreciation of the hardworking team at Hoover, everyone that's at that site. I really appreciate it. That's it for our comments.
We have one more Spanish speaker
Great.
online.
Let me look at the sheet. Regular session. Yeah, okay, so it's Lizbeth Estrada online. Lizbeth, you can unmute.
Sí me escucho, ¿verdad? I believe the speaker is on in the conference line. Sí, señora, la escuchamos. Can the board hear this? Sí, sí. Mi nombre es Lisbeth
We can hear it now, yeah. There's sound problems in the boardroom, but if we turn our on. So if they could start over, I'll turn my sound on so we can hear.
¿Sí puede por favor comenzar de nuevo? Ok, está bien. Buenas noches a todos. Mi nombre es Lisbeth Estrada. Para mí, como mamá de la escuela Hoover, es valorar decisiva y explícitamente el desempeño de mis hijos en el estudio, dependiendo del nivel donde se les dificulta o estén atrasados. Los grupos de profesores colaboran ayudándoles directamente a hacer las tareas o planeando soluciones, sin dejar siempre de mencionar parte del equipo de los programas después de escuela, como por ejemplo el Boys and Girls. Les dan apoyo, les dan los materiales instruccional y afectivo, poniendo énfasis en este último. Para mí el apoyo emocional y activo al estudio, yo lo he visto que es percibido por los docentes de la escuela, generando en ellos una buena disposición hacia las familias, lo que a su vez funciona para nosotros como reforzamientos de conducta de apoyo emocional y de fomento del estudio, generando siempre un círculo virtuoso que se retroalimenta positivamente. Mi involucramiento en mi escuela Hoover es aportar, profundizar y motivar a padres y madres menos participativos que se acerquen al centro educativo, y así podemos fortalecer las acciones de nuestro plantel y educación de nuestros hijos, como para aquellos padres que lo hacemos más con frecuencia. Recordando siempre esto, las expectativas que los padres tenemos en la escuela entran en juego en relación familia-escuela. Siempre tenemos que tener en mente que somos una comunidad, familia, escuela, demandando preparación de calidad, formación en valores, atención a las diferencias individuales y garantizar seguridad sobre todo y protección en el centro educativo, conexión con el plantel laboral y preparación para la educación. Esas son mis palabras con todo mi corazón y Dios me los bendiga. Y Hoover Husky. Gracias.
Gracias. Gracias, Lizbeth. Itzel, you'll provide the translation.
Correct. So I will provide the interpretation for the comment just received. Well, good evening to everyone. My name is Lisbeth Estrada,
And to me, as a Hoover mother, it's to value explicitly the the how my children are developing on their studies, and depending on the level that that they get difficulties or that they're behind, like the teachers work together to help them directly, to do the homework and to plan lessons, and also to, I don't want to I always want to mention also like the programs that we have after school, like for example, Boys and Girls Club, that they are supporting, they are giving materials and effectively emphasizing the studies. And to me, the emotional support that they have, I've seen it, and that I perceived that it's given for the teachers, and they see like they're always willing to help their families. And at the same times, that works for us because that reinforces the behaviors and the emotions as well, and also the studies of our children. And also, we always get possibly positive input. And the participation that I have on my school Hoover is to motivate parents deeply that probably that they don't participate as much, that to come to the educational center and to strengthen the activities on our schools and the education for our children. So for those parents that don't do it as often, so they could do it more often. So I always want to remind this, the expectations that the parents have for the schools, they take a play, or they take a part with, it's always a relationship, family and school site. And we always have to keep in mind that we are a community, families and schools, and we have to ask, we have to ask for like quality education, and also values and attention for differences, the individual differences, and guarantee the safety, especially in protection in the school site, and to prepare them for their education. And those are my words with all of my heart, and God bless you. And Hoover Huskies, thank you.
All right, thanks, Itel, for the translation. Okay, so let's open it up to board member questions and comments. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
I don't know if this, thank you, Hoover team, for the presentation, and thank you for all you guys do at the school. I don't know if my questions may be more for Anna, but you keep mentioning kind of the stability of the teaching cohort as hopefully having a bigger impact on their academic success. Are we seeing that next year, that kind of we're able to retain the teaching cohort at Hoover, and are there things that we can do to kind of support that?
I would say Hoover in the last, this year has had some a little bit more stability than the years of the past. So she still has some teachers that are returning, but she'll have some, not as many openings as she's had in the past. So yeah, we're hoping to build more stability with the teachers staying on. Yeah.
And I have to say, we're a family. We're the Hoover Husky family. And we are so fortunate to have such an amazing, hardworking, dedicated staff. And we're very happy and proud that a majority of them will be returning.
Then maybe my other questions maybe can be taken offline, but I was wondering, with the illustrative math, is there less of a language component attached to it, or?
No, there's not. There's a lot of language and illustrative math, and this being really our first year. I'd say it our first year, though we started last year, right? Our first year where we're really trying to really move the curriculum along, and the teachers are still learning how to make sure to use all the components that are important. So they're still there's so much language involved. The one thing that our students are at Hoover, and not just Hoover, but our three bilingual schools, we made the choice because we have a 50-50 program to do that in English versus Spanish in their home language. Adelante does it all in Spanish and then transfers it over up in the upper grades. So we have chosen at these sites, because of the type of model of bilingual program, we do it in English. So there has been some hiccups and there's some transitions. A lot of math has a lot of cognate, so a lot of things is transferable, but there's a lot of language involved in the thinking of it. So our teachers, like Lupa said earlier, are still learning to teach in that style, because a lot of the illustrative math is providing a problem and not giving them the answer. And that's a really difficult for teachers to do. They become facilitators to
que lo
help,
hagan
and so
los
we're still
maestros
working
y
on
son los facilitadores.
supporting teachers
Siguen
in that aspect,
trabajando
but they're
en
still
apoyar a
learning
los
the curriculum.
maestros,
So
pero
we're
siguen
hoping
trabajando en el
this year
currículum.
we know
Entonces
that
esperamos que
the
este año
teachers are
sepamos que
actually
los
completing more of the
maestros
units. Next year,
completen
we're
más las
hoping that they'll be more
unidades y
stronger
estamos
as they
esperando de
learn
que sean
to
más fuertes,
manipulate a little bit
y
more of
manipular
the ins and
más
outs of the curriculum itself.
del currículum
So
por sí
Hoover's
mismo.
team has been
Entonces,
very
el
dedicated
equipo de
at
Hoover ha sido muy
with
dedicado
our coach
con
Anastasia, who's been there a lot, working with her teachers and implementing and supporting them with the math curriculum.
Great. And I mean, just getting the kids to school is the most important thing. So your climate numbers, very commendable.
Sure. Well, thank you for the three of you. I do appreciate your enthusiasm and your eagerness to help all the students. I want to say, I think besides going to Taft when Anna was there, when I visited Hoover, a lot of the kids, obviously I was walking with Lupe, so I didn't see you, Josh, and I'm sorry, John Michael. I was going to call you Michael, but I knew that was the middle one. Students are very, oh, Ms. Guzman, so I do appreciate the fact that students know who their principal is, not just their teacher or the classified staff that works there. So it does make a big difference. And of course, as much as the students there may be struggling, especially with all the English learners that you're getting, I was just going to kind of ask a follow-up question regarding the math, because what are we doing with those English learners, especially when they're coming in with zero English, right? I mean, it's just so hard. So when we think about, and even just when, oh my God, I just lost mine. Devin, when he spoke about having 34 students in his classroom, I mean, we're talking 34 students, not 20 or 16, right? It makes a really big difference. So I totally understand. And I know that we wish students were in a better place, and they will be. But again, we have to think about the struggles that the students are having. But again, I appreciate the fact that you guys are a great team. Obviously, really loving. You just told everybody that you love them. And so I think that makes a big difference. I do know one of your newer teachers that said she loves Hoover. She's like, this is so great. Our team, they pair up by grade. And so she's like, everybody just loves working together. So, know that I hear that outside of work too. So I do appreciate it. And so I know you guys are working really hard. Obviously, the absenteeism, COVID took a big shift. And so I know we're getting better. And so I appreciate, obviously, we want the academic, but you also make it fun to where they actually know they're going to be recognized. And so that says a lot. I mean, just like Larry mentioned, the safety, that's number one. And so hopefully all that would play a part in moving our kids forward. So thank you. So just my follow-up question regarding obviously the math. What are we doing with those English learners? Obviously, if the math part, it's a lot of English.
So we're fortunate that a lot of our math has, we have the Spanish component is needed with some of those students, but we do have for our newcomers, especially Lupa has much more support, as she does have a high number of newcomers there. So really trying to provide them. What we're finding in math, and not just this, is in middle school, we need to look at our model because many of them are going to many different places. And when you have one instructional aid and one teacher, we can't. So we have to figure that out. And Catherine and I are working on that for next year, but definitely trying to figure out what does that look like in the middle school versus math is very difficult. If an instructional aid doesn't know the math, so that's another, it's one more thing. I know Hoover has a very strong math team. I've been there and have seen them. They do a lot. They've been able to, actually one of their science teacher actually has a whole translation thing that really makes sure to include the new students that are in the curriculum and have this, like the sciences in Spanish. They have access to some of the math in Spanish. So they've been doing a lot at Hoover to really try to support the newcomers as much as possible to allow them to use their home language. In the elementary level, third, fourth, and fifth grade, we have a lot other supports as well. In terms of, she actually has another teacher there this year. And so we're looking at how they're supporting their students this year in some of those areas. But it just depends. We have kids who come in to Hoover with a lot of skills, that have had schooling, and then we have those who don't have schooling. So we really worry about the ones that don't have schooling because they have a lot more catch up to do and a lot more work to do with individualized instruction. So I think one of the things that Ms. Rivera and I are talking about is how do we assess them when they come in so that we can make sure we're putting them into the right supports and doing that. So we haven't been able to really assess them as coming, but she's been working on some workshops that she's been attending that are giving us some ways of assessing the kids so that we have some snapshot about how we can figure out the program for them to really help support their skills.
And then another thing is just kind of a thought. I'm not the educator, but I'm just wondering, like, what are we doing as far as reaching out to the families of those students and how they can help them? Because I know in the past, as a matter of fact, and I do want to say thank you to Lizbeth for speaking up. She is one of our Spanish-speaking superintendent advisory committee members, and she's been attending, I don't know, I think this is like her third year, and I know she's always at Hoover. So I appreciate her being here and speaking. We heard from one of the parents at one point, actually more than one parent, how our culturally, the Latino community just expects their kids to have a lot of homework. And so a few of the parents were actually wondering why some kids don't have as much homework. And I'm wondering what are we doing to address those issues with some of those parents? Because if as a parent, the student is coming in not maybe understanding the math, are we telling those parents, don't be mad at your kid, please make sure to write your teacher back a note? And I know that that's some of the things that we kind of learn as we go, but just so that the poor kid is stressed out about learning a new language and going home to a mad parent because they're not understanding the homework or something like that. So I just want to throw it out there. I'm sure you guys know what you're doing. I just wanted to, see what you're doing and if we're doing the right thing.
So there are different things that we do. Part of our tutoring programs address our our EL's needs. We also have a lot of our teachers who are participating in the after-school teacher program, and they target the students who need the most support. We have CAP tutoring after school. We also have work with our parents so that they can access tutoring.com. On the kids' Chromebooks, so they get that support. We work with the library down the street so that the kids could go to the drop-in center. We're actually right now working to get a cohort of our 8th graders to become peer tutors, part of their service community hours, so that they can then come back and tutor our kids on campus. So there are different type of ways to access support for our families. And it has to be different for each child, depending on their need. We know that some of our families, have 3 jobs, and it's not an exaggeration, and live in a household with 10 other people, and they're on survival mode. So it's not equitable to expect families to help them with homework at that point because they are surviving, and the inverse triangle of trauma, working on homework is not a priority all the time. And we need to understand that and figure out how to support children at school. We're very fortunate, and I'm so sorry I didn't give you a shout out earlier. BGCP and PAL are essential in giving our kids a safe place, a place where kids can do their homework. I know they're not a homework completion program. I would love to figure out how to maybe bring volunteers from high school, pair them up, and have high schoolers come volunteer and do, tutoring with our kiddos, because our kiddos are with us till 5:30, 6 o'clock. So by that time, high schoolers can come in. But that's one of the things that I'm going to do when I actually have time. Anyways, so there are a lot of ideas. We also work very closely with the community school partnerships and just thinking outside of the box. How can we bring more resources into our community at Hoover? It is a safe place for our families. It is a place where they know they can come and get support. And so how do we bridge more services? And how do we reach more families? And given the climate right now, how do we create an environment where they know that they can safely come to us and we can support them? So sorry, that was a long-winded answer to your question.
I'll echo some of what I think everyone's already thinking and has already said, but thank you, all of you, for coming and for doing the work, for making the presentation, and for providing all the context behind what the school is, all the populations you serve. As a former alternative math teacher, I certainly understand the challenges that come along with serving a high concentration of high needs populations. So I know it is not easy. So again, just really appreciate it. I want to acknowledge that. My understanding too is that there are several new members of the pack. So doing the work among that environment, very difficult. So I totally appreciate that. And in particular, the work on chronic absenteeism, the progress on suspensions and school climate, all great. That said, I think underlying a lot of the questions here, and I'm sure everyone you're aware, is we also do want to make sure that we're focusing on the academic achievement results as well. Of course, you need to set the foundation, right? You can't teach unless you get the kids coming to school. So like, I totally get that, but something that we definitely want to keep our eyes on. I have one comment, which is kind of, I think, a mix for the district and for the school, and more just broadly, and then a couple of questions. The comment, this is more just on the presentation. I find myself struggling a little bit to match. Let me take a step back. I think what would be super helpful for me in the presentations, and maybe for others, would be to really get a good sense of what the concrete goals are for the specific school, and then tie that to the data pieces that we're seeing after that, right? So I know that we have our LCAP goals, we see those, and then those have specific metrics that go along with that at the district level. But obviously we know that Hoover is serving a different population from Roy Cloud, for example. And so I imagine that there's going to be different independent goals that are set. And I know, I imagine that the SIPSs are doing this. I'm still just catching up to speed. And so I don't know all the ins and outs, but it would be helpful for me to kind of see that of this is our specific goal at Hoover and the SIPSA, and then here's how we're tracking along. It's just helpful for me to get a sense of, do we know what a clear vision of success looks like in this specific environment? And is it sufficiently ambitious and specific while also being achievable, right? Because there's no benefit to setting goals that are unachievable, right? No one wants to be set up for failure. So that's kind of just my big thought that would be helpful in the presentations just generally, just to make sure that we're mirroring that. And again, I'm sure that I'm missing lots of context. So I appreciate the patience with people getting me up to speed. The two questions that I have, and I know, Lubarity, you've already answered them, and it'll be a recurring theme, but I think it'd be helpful for the board and the public to hear answers to are, one, what strategies specific, or what specific strategy or support or characteristic are you finding is the most supportive at Hoover in terms of that translates to student academic and other success tied to our goals? And then the flip side, what are the major challenges that we as a board can be mindful of in helping support?
Jump in. No offense to anyone, the biggest challenge is having experienced teachers who know the culture and know how to work with our population. And so we have amazing, dedicated teachers that are interns, guest teachers, first, second year teachers, teachers who have joined our team are coming from very different type of communities. And then we have our veteran teachers. And when you have 25 of your teachers that are new to your school, there's definitely a learning curve, not only in all the curriculum and instructional strategies that are used in our district and at our site, but also just getting to know the community and getting to know your team and developing your professional learning communities. And it's a lot to ask in 1 year. I think down the line, because we're a very tight group of people and very hardworking and dedicated and just cramming in as much information as we can into our brains, we're going to get there. It's going to take time. And then on the flip side, the challenges. I think one of our greatest challenges is addressing the trauma in our communities. When our kids have food insecurities, housing insecurities, excuse me, that's my alarm to put my children to bed. Sorry, I silenced my phone. There we go. So as I was saying, when our kids don't have their basic needs met, there's a big hurdle. And I think that's why the community school model is so important, because we have to address those needs. When our kids come to school in clean clothes, fed, they have slept well, and are just, they can, block out the noise, then we can get to work. And when they come to school dysregulated because of X, Y, and Z, then we need to address the social emotional need first so that their brain is ready to learn.
I think that's very helpful on the strengths in particular, and it's good to hear that we're optimistic about having greater stability. So I'm optimistic that'll translate. And then on the challenges, that totally makes sense. And again, I think all of us are trying to be mindful of the ways that we can support in those regards. So thank you again.
David, did you want to make any comments? Being mindful of the time too, both for you and for the rest of the staff.
Pretty late out east. Thank you so much. And it was great to come by Hoover to go and tour and talk with you about the school, about what's going on there. I think it's great that we're getting students to show up. And I think that the name of the game at this point is, like you say, experienced teacher. It's investing in those teachers and their training and making sure that we can spend more time in the classroom giving feedback to those teachers to continue to invest in them and their excellence. So thank you for all you do for our kids.
All right. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Let's wrap up quickly. First, I don't think anyone acknowledged the suspension numbers. That's incredible, the change that's there, and attributing that to really building that strong sense of belonging, which is so important. And we just talked about it today at the chamber meeting. Superintendent McGee was talking about it, particularly with like you called it euphemistically climate change, but some of the really aggressive changes in policy that are just so hurtful. Knowing that there are adults that care at school and making sure that kids love school is really just a top priority. And I'm glad to see that you're focused on it. One of my things that I dislike about the presentations that we get here is that percent met does not take into consideration at all where the students come from on each given day or in each given year or even each given week for them time by time. And so I'm very glad that you're data driven, and I know you're looking at more data than just the stuff that's presented here. But it doesn't tell the whole story, and we know that. So thank you for coming and sharing some of that whole story. And the last thing is, I hear you loud and clear. It doesn't matter how experienced the teacher is, if they're turning over at that rate, we need to find a way, like, to creatively find ways to bring some stability to staffing so that they can get the reps, right? The year after year reps of doing it. It takes a couple reps to be able to get through a new curriculum, a new school, a new classroom, and a new teaching team. And even when one teacher changes, it changes the team. And so I think that's an important part. Dr. Baker, I don't know if you had any closing comments, and then we can move on.
Make it quick so that because I know we have to go in. All three of you, thank you so much. And I know, Lupe, you want to get home because you want to put the little ones to bed. And I had agreed that you would be out of here by that time, but I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Just, to comment on, you are moving forward, and I know there are some challenges, but the work that you're doing with the professional learning communities, with your teachers, and the goals that you're creating are something that I think going to be very beneficial in moving that needle. She has taken it with John Michael and with Denora, I believe, and also with you, Josh, to make sure that teachers are meeting at grade level, coming up with goals for what's going to happen and how to move the children forward. And you're looking at data more often than you have in the past. So I'm sure that's going to also help. So with that being said, thank you so much for all you do. And good night. You can go.
Anna, back to you.
All right, so now we're going to have Roy Cloud Administration come up and share their presentation.
On, yes. All right. Hi, everyone. Good evening, Redwood City Board of Trustees, Superintendent Baker, District Administration and Cabinet, colleagues, community members, and our incredible Roy Cloud staff and families. My name is Melissa Bowden. I am the principal.
And I'm Jason Konigsberg, the vice principal.
It is an absolute pleasure to speak with you guys this evening. We're delighted to share the great many things that Roy Cloud has engaged in since our last board report, from innovative learning experiences to meaningful community initiatives. Our school continues to thrive, and we are excited to showcase our progress. A heartfelt shout out to our amazing Roy Cloud staff. Your dedication and care for our scholars makes all the difference in their growth and success, and we're going to be able to see that in our presentation tonight. To our families, thank you so much for your unwavering collaboration and support. The partnership we have with you helps us create a strong, connected school community where every child feels seen, heard, and encouraged to reach their full potential. And we appreciate each and every one of you for being a part of this journey, and we look forward to sharing our accomplishments with you tonight. So let's dive in. Goal number one. I'm going to keep going. We'll get it. You guys know what goal number one is, and we are going to look at our data. So first up is the chronic absenteeism. You'll notice that throughout the years and the different data points that we're looking at, our data kind of ebbs and flows. So our goal is really to kind of look at, sure, yep, there we go. Our goal is to really think through these practices and stop that kind of ebb and flow and really kind of work on trending up if the trend up is positive, or down if the positive trend is going down. And so for our chronic absenteeism, as you can see, we hit kind of a high mark in 21, 22. It's gone down with a little bit, we're trending a little up this year. Some things to keep in mind in terms of how we are addressing our chronic absenteeism is, so here's another representation of our different student groups that you're seeing there. One of the ways in which, or let me just talk about the trends just quickly, is the trend suggests increasing need for that connection. This also shows our suspension rates. So our numbers have started out that our numbers have kind of really wavered in very low percentages. And while they maintain at low percentages, we want to keep lowering them. We really do try to address some of our behavioral concerns and needs with restorative practices, kind of the educational approach. But of course, as we know that sometimes an appropriate response is a suspension. But we do continue to keep our suspension rates quite low. All right, so let's talk about what are ways in which we are addressing our chronic absenteeism, suspension rates, and just overall climate and culture of our school. So Roy Cloud's commitment to social and emotional support, attendance, and discipline goals are as followed. We are actively addressing our district-wide goals through implementation of the MTSS systems of support. We look through MTSS in a multitude of ways. One is through our academics, really focusing on that Tier 1 universal instruction. We are also looking through we're looking at MTSS through the lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what that looks like for each of our individual students. We have an implementation of a school-wide SEL program through the Character Strong curriculum that fosters empathy, self-awareness, and resilience. We have our Live School PBIS tracker and incentive system, and for our younger scholars, the Bolt Buck system that encourages positive behavior and student engagement through these enforcing strategies. We engage in culturally responsive teaching practices, focusing on the pedagogy of confidence, providing representation and student engagement in the classes, and to embed those in our daily instruction. A couple years ago, we engaged in a DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion literature lift that it was supported by our PTO to encourage that representation within our literature. Our goal was to make sure that our scholars, no matter what book they were checking out of the library or in their classrooms or reading as a novel study, showed an example of themselves and their peers in the characters in the book. This year, we are engaging in a district-wide PLC to really look at some of our academic data and to create some SMART goals. Roy Cloud also has a separate PLC that's around climate and culture. So we meet regularly, and one of the PLCs is to look specifically at the types of representation that are in our books so that we are reaching all of our scholars. We have whole school realouts that feature different literature that reinforces diversity, kindness, and respect. I want to give a shout out to our TK team. They were the ones. I did one just, I just wanted to reach the students. So I did a recording of a book that was timely of some of the topics we were addressing in our SEL. And they came to me and they said, that was amazing. And I was like, we saw the TKers. They were like, we saw you on the TV. So we continue to do that just as a way for us to reach our scholars and to show this kind of communal aspect and this communal approach in supporting our scholars, that it's not just in the classroom, that it's all of us teaching all of the students. And we also have an incredible mental health counselor who supports by providing small group lessons, one-to-one counseling. She supports our middle school inclusivity student committee that was just created this year. She also leads Peacemakers, which is a 3rd through 5th grade student-led support for conflict resolution out on the playground. She has friendship circles, restorative circles to all address the emotional needs of our scholars. And then we also have an academic counselor who conducts minute meetings that have been so incredibly valuable with the data that she collects when she just sits down with her scholars, and they really are for a minute, but the amount of information she gets from our scholars really helps drive our instruction and drive our approaches forward in supporting our scholars. So I'm very grateful for the time that she spends with our scholars. She also has Lunch Bunch, Kindness Club. She offers office hours, and right now she's getting ready to support that high school articulation. We are communicating with our counselor through the Sequoia Union High School District is through Woodside, and we create opportunities for our parents and families to meet with the high schools to kind of learn about the registration process and the process that's going to be coming in terms of choosing classes and just overall getting ready for high school. Our academic counselor promotes positive interactions between scholars and teachers, helps to be an advocate for scholar needs, provides an additional safe person for scholars to confide in and help them find the support that they need. We also have Rainbow Cloud, a student-driven initiative fostering LGBTQ plus inclusion and support. Our music teacher, Mix Washburn, is the staff member who leads this and provides the safe place for all scholars to join who are actively seeking more opportunities to promote inclusivity in our school. So I think Trustee Lee, you had mentioned like what are each school site's individual goals in addition to our LCAP goals. Ours really is to build that whole child approach and to make sure that all of our students feel included and that we have a safe place to learn and to grow. They have been instrumental in promoting a positive learning environment and is attending with me on Friday the Youth Advisory and Social Summit with a group of middle schoolers who have chosen to attend this. We are excited to take them. This is our first year going. We also have, we are attending this summer the Social and Emotional Institute Conference in Burlingame to ensure our staff stay informed on best practices for SEL. We also engage in restorative practices, incorporating many of the lessons from Learning for Justice and Zaretta Hammond's resources to build strong community-centered approaches to discipline and behavior approaches. Resources we've used from Hammond have allowed our staff to pause and consider the equity we hold to provide to our scholars and families and to really reflect on the practices and look for ways to enhance and improve. In addition, these resources, we are also continuing to use the pedagogy of confidence that was introduced to us a couple years ago. Through thinking maps and practices, we find that these resources support our scholars taking ownership of their learning and to help thrive, especially in ELA. And we also celebrate and recognize Inclusive Schools Week and Great Kindness Challenge to reinforce that inclusivity and empathy. So ways that we are addressing our attendance, much like a lot of our schools, we are engaging in that personalized support. We spend a lot of time calling our families, seeing if they need additional resources or supports to get their child to school. And then we also do home visits. You know, some of our schools, some of our scholars, they live around. I have walked to a house or two to help get our scholars to school. We also do fun attendance challenges. We are currently in one for the month of February. We did one in September that was very successful. I think our students love a good challenge and a friendly competition between the grades. And it also helps that there's an incentive at the end of the month. So we will continue to do those as well because they do show improvements in our attendance records. For middle school, at the beginning of the school year, we had an interactive review of our handbook and expectations. One of the things we really want to do is for all of our scholars, but really the leaders of our school, our middle schoolers, is to make sure that they are set up for success and we're front loading a lot of our expectations because when you know your expectations, you know how to address them. And so what they did in their homerooms is they took each section of the handbook and then they presented it to their community to help us really kind of engage in those what's in that handbook and how we can navigate a successful year. We also have executive functioning support for all of our scholars. We do have a focused attention in 6th grade with the SMARTS curriculum. We are enhancing our literature options in classrooms and libraries. We have targeted academic supports during our enrichment periods while also providing scholars multiple options to engage in interests and passions. And we have a Reading Buddy program. Additional to our enrichment program, we are attending CASTLE, which is it's the kind of the California student body annual workshop that all of our middle schoolers are able to go to. We always go to them. Last year, we received the Outstanding Leadership Program Award that is framed very proudly in our office. We have a whole school talent show hosted by our middle school community service. We have ongoing musical performances and school plays. We also have our monthly Bolt Award assemblies. I gave you guys the link in case you guys want to come and see one because they're really fun and they're really great. And we have regular school events. I think all in all, what we find is that, Roy Cloud really prides itself on a very rigorous academic program, but we also want to make sure that we're providing an enriching and fun school environment so that the students want to come to school. They want to learn, they want to be challenged appropriately. They also want to have fun with their teachers and their peers. And so that is how we are addressing goal number 1. And I'm going to hand it over. Here's just some photos of some of the things that we do at Roy Cloud. So we have our, you'll see Mr. Konigsberg and I up there dressed as some of the feelings from Inside Out. We have our kindness challenge activities. We have our Unity Day that's there. We have our Roy Cloud PLCs. You'll see Mix Washburn down at the bottom there. We have our classroom expectations and our playground expectations that Mr. Konigsberg and I review with our scholars. You see a panel there that was when we hosted Like and Upstanders, and we asked some of our community members to be a part of that panel. And the tree of understanding, that's the Zaretta Hammond resource where it helps us kind of see where we're falling in terms of what we understand about our scholars. Do we fall in the leaves, or can we get down into their roots and really understand our learners and their learner profiles? Okay.
All right.
Oh, there we go.
All right. Good evening. Okay. Our LCAP goal number 2, English learner progress and achievement. By June 2027, 55% of 2nd through 8th grade English learner students at Roy Cloud School will advance by at least one level annually on the summative LPAC assessment. Additionally, we aim to increase the reclassification rate to 20% and reduce long-term English learner status to 10% through targeted interventions and supports. Key strategies and supports that we're using: high quality designated integrated ELD instruction, implement daily designated emerging multilingual instruction tailored to emerging multilingual learners, strengthen integrated strategies across all content areas, ensuring students access grade level curriculum with appropriate scaffolding, using our data to analyze which students would benefit from an alternative approach to instruction or more scaffolding. We need to be able to tailor instruction that is targeted towards individual student needs, provide focused staff development on engaging with multilingual learners and their families, focused on equity, data-driven instruction and progress monitoring, utilize formative and summative assessments, including LPAC interim assessments to track student progress. And we're doing that right now. Implement elevation and language power to drive instruction, support, and evaluate progress. Conduct Shadow a Student Day, which we'll be doing in the spring, where educators observe multilingual learners to gain insight into their experiences and needs. We do this every year in the spring, and we find that it helps us inform our practices and plan for the remainder of the year and start the following year strong. Expanded intervention and support programs. We offer intervention programs focused on language development and literacy. Implement small group and individualized support for struggling, emerging multilingual learning students. Use technology to provide better access for emerging multilingual learners to engage with class communities, curriculum, and learning. We want to shout out to all of our staff who have jumped in to learn about all the resources that are available to us, whether they be the student devices themselves, the curriculum, or supplemental resources. Our teachers spend much of their time at the beginning of the school year building relationships with scholars and ensuring that they have the supports they need in place and that the scholars know how to access them. For instance, making sure that our younger scholars know how to access their preferred language in the iPads provided so they can access their learning in an optimal setting. For our upper elementary to middle school scholars, we make sure scholars can toggle between English and their preferred language in the online curriculum. We have, and our scholars have access to digital resources to read and engage in their preferred language while they're working on their English language acquisition. Family and community engagement. We provide parent support to families in understanding the reclassification process and how to support language development at home. We utilize our principal's coffee and designated time in our school site council meetings to inform parents of the process and how we can all work together to support the scholars. We conduct outreach by administration and school personnel before the school year starts to connect with families and build community. We did that this past summer. We do this each summer to personally connect with families, especially new families, to ensure they're receiving tailored support in starting a new school year. We establish bilingual family liaisons to strengthen our communication between the school and the families. We are building the process of this initiative, but we're finding it very supportive for the families we have a liaison for. Culturally responsive and inclusive learning environments. We celebrate multilingual learners by providing a platform where they feel empowered by their strengths, interests, and knowledge with the support of our academic counselor, reading intervention teacher. Our scholars are able to celebrate and share in their lives and show their peers their interests and passions as a way to build community. We use design thinking approach to learn more about multilingual learners' experiences at school and how to improve. We introduced this in August of this year and plan to dive into this process in the spring with our shadow days to learn more about the individual experiences of our emerging multilingual learners to support them, their development, and to help them thrive and feel included in the school community. We expand the use of bilingual texts and resources to support student comprehension and engagement, foster a positive school climate where the students feel valued, included, and supported in their language learning journey. By implementing these targeted supports, Roy Cloud School is committed to ensuring that more emerging multilingual learner students achieve language proficiency, gain access to academic success, and transition out of EL services within the expected time frame. The next slide, okay, is a summary of the LPAC growth level at Roy Cloud. Yeah, it's a little tricky.
That way? It's okay.
Oh, okay. I was pointing it over there too, but that doesn't seem to be working. Oh,
Oh,
well, we went.
okay.
Okay, there we are. Okay. The graph illustrates the percentage of students who increased by at least one level on the LPAC assessment across different grade levels for the academic years 2021-22, 22-23, and 23-24. What's important to note is that our emerging multilingual learner numbers are relatively low. Last year, we have just shy of 20 scholars. This year, it's important to know that we have increased our number of scholars and thus have increased the number of emerging multilingual learners. We are excited and delighted to work with this student group. Key observations, kindergarten, fourth grade, and eighth grade had 100% of students increase by at least one LPAC level 22-23. First grade in 23-24 showed 50% of scholars improving. What's important to note is that we have very few scholars. Sixth grade, 23-24 had 20% of students increase their LPAC level. While we did not meet our goal, we are continuing practices to ensure our scholars are being supported. We are hopeful with the initiatives, data analysis, and new programmatic shifts we've made this year that scholars will improve in LPAC and reach their goal of reclassification. We're currently conducting our summative LPAC testing, and we look forward to reviewing the results as we feel they will show huge growth. We're going to continue to design instruction across all grade levels to ensure consistent support and support integrated systems into the classroom. We'll increase professional development for teachers, leverage technology and data tools to drive instruction and track progress, and provide better access to scholars, strengthen family engagement strategies to reinforce language learning at home. Yeah, and then some other things that we're doing. You want to talk about that? Okay, yeah.
Some of the things that we've done kind of behind the scenes, we were talking about that design thinking process in terms of really learning the individual supports that our emerging multilinguals, it would benefit them more. So that's down at the bottom here. We have our language power, our student shadow program. What we did was our grade level teams kind of worked together to see who would be the representative of the grade level who would shadow a student. It started out where we were going to have them shadow the student that was in their grade, but then they all got kind of creative and they asked if they could go and see some of the students that they used to teach. And I was like, let's run with it and do that. And we still collected some really great data. And so these were kind of the outcome of the student empathy interview data. Those are the questions that we talked about, we engaged with, and like Jason said, it really did inform our practice for this year. All right. Thank you. Well done on that. Okay. LCAP goal 3. So here is our goal for really looking at ELA and math. Let's jump into the data. All right. So some strategies that we've put in place to address our ELA goals. As you can see, we kind of ramped up in around 2019, and we've kind of wavered in that high 60s percentile. It's not our goal but we are definitely putting in some things this year to really address the goal that we have set for ourselves. I do want to thank the district in terms of the PLC that you guys created for us, because it has really provided a lot of really great conversations around what the needs are for our scholars, and allowed us to take our time looking at the data and creating those SMART goals. So some of the things that we've done, I think you can go to the next one. Oh, here's just a different look at some of our student groups and how they're performing in ELA. And here's another group. So you'll see that our current 8th grade is performing in ELA just shy of our goal. Next one. And here's our iReady. So our students are performing quite well in iReady. We do find that from the fall assessments to the spring, there's quite a significant jump, which we are very proud of with our scholars. All right, and here's math. Before we go, can you go back one more? Before we jump into math, I want to talk about what we're doing and with ELA. So some of the things that we're doing to address our ELA goals is to engage in holistic writing assessments more frequently. We just did our FIEBs. We found that while this did give us a little bit of data, we wanted more data. So we decided to do a whole school writing assessment, really from kinder on 8th, focusing on opinion, persuasive, and argumentative. We find that in the real world, we really want our students to find their voice, and what better way to practice than with an opinion, a persuasive and argumentative essay. So they just did that, and our teachers currently are in the process of doing a holistic scoring where they're looking at all of the students in their grade, and that's really informing our practice. We are supporting early elementary teachers with our Hegarty Phonics program. We have small group instruction support from our reading intervention teacher. I just want to pause and give our reading teacher, Maureen McPeak, a shout out for the work and support she is providing, not just to our scholars, but also to our teachers. We were talking about the Roy Cloud specific PLC, and one of those groups is around small group instruction and how this approach to learning can support scholars' progress and growth. In middle school, we reconfigured our schedule to ensure scholars and teachers have time to slow down the instruction with longer periods and more universal supports to provide better access for things like novel studies, and provide curriculum with audiobooks and Bookshare, just to increase that access for our scholars. Our 3rd through 5th grade teachers have engaged in learning more about literacy circles, or as the 4th graders are calling them, their book clubs, which I love, with the support of the administration. We've gone in and modeled best practices on how to engage with the scholars with this approach, and it's been really successful. And so while we modeled it, they then have taken the reins, and it's been really great to go in and see what they've been doing with their literacy circles. What's important to note back at our data is that last year, with the addition of a middle school SLC class, our goals were to support our scholars' individual learning plans that best support their access to their learning. We learned a lot about best practices around supporting middle school scholars, especially in this SLC class, and the supportive impact that a hybrid model of part-time SLC and part-time general education can have on a scholar. It provides an increased opportunity for engaging with peers, additional supports for both an SLC teacher and the general education teachers, and an increased pride and attention to work. We're hopeful that with our second year, this is our second year with our SLC class, that these scholars will continue to thrive and grow in the areas of ELA now that all of our staff is well versed in supporting these scholars, and that scholars are comfortable with how we do things in middle school at Roy Cloud. And then going back to our data in terms of seeing the 8th graders almost at our goal, with the exception of the current 7th grade, we have observed an increase in our data with scholars who have met or exceeded grade level expectations, especially in ELA. Yeah, it's back a little bit, but that's okay. With new practices in place, we hope to continue this success rate, address the individual needs of our scholars, focusing on the current 7th grade scholars, to see what additional supports might be needed to ensure that their continued success in ELA continues. And like I've said, we've developed a lot of our SMART goals and reading practice this year, such as implementing our small group instruction and increased individual conferences. A lot of our middle school teachers are engaging more in that and unpacking directions and prompts to ensure all scholars understand what is being asked of them when showing what they know. That's what we saw from the FIAB, which is going to be very supportive in this year's SBAC, where we were able to take time and help our students really pull apart what the prompts were asking them, and be able to have the time to ask the teachers like, hey, what does this mean? So that when it comes time for them to take the SBAC, that they will have those tools at the ready for them. Overall, we've been very successful in achieving our goals. And now we're going to jump to math. There we go. In achieving our goals in math, as shown in this graph, we hope with the continued support and additional enrichments that we have in place, we'll be able to surpass this goal and achieve scores in the 70th percentile range. In addition to what was mentioned about ELA, this graph pertains to students, yep, that one, to student groups. Much of the support and improvements mentioned align with math as well. For our emerging multilingual learners in SBAC and ELA, our goal will be for all 13 of those students to take the SBAC and reach grade level this year. With our math goals hovering around similar percentiles from year to year, our goal is that with the implementation of additional resources and supports, we'll continue to improve in this subject. We have implemented many strategies. First, with the support of additional supplemental materials, in addition to illustrative math, and our current middle school math program, we also use Silicon Valley Math Initiative resources. We are able to help our scholars learn how to explain their thinking in math practices, as this is a huge focus in these types of resources. We find that our scholars are really great at those foundational math skills. They're really good at attacking a problem, but in terms of explaining how they got there, that's where we're trying to build those types of skills. And we find that the resources around SVMI, MARS, and Problem of the Month really help us kind of achieve that. We find that with many scholars who struggle in this area, we want to ensure, especially with our emerging multilingual learners, that they are receiving targeted support in order to help explain their thinking. And whether that is, through verbal, if that's through, collaborative thinking, we want to make sure that they are providing the appropriate access for them to do that. SVMI has really helped us do this. And furthermore, many teachers have been trained in vertical learning. So if you came to Roy Cloud in any of the math classes, you might see a bunch of poster boards up on the wall. You might see some easels, and that's what vertical learning is. Getting students up and working with their peers supports stamina, constructive conversation, and retention of information. And additionally, scholars are learning tools in their designated EL support classes to understand key terms and vocabulary that would otherwise be a barrier in their learning. All right, ready? There we go. There seems to be a little discrepancy between our SBAC data and our iReady data starting in the early grades levels. While SBAC starts in 3rd grade, what we're kind of wondering is if the discrepancies are because that iReady data is collected in the younger grades. What Roy Cloud also looks at is when our scores waver more than 1 grade level below, what we want to do is we want to do a deeper dive into those assessments from our district approved curriculum. So the illustrative math also really helps us do this. And we look at this data. When we look at this data, our scholars are improving in their math skills by topic and as it compares to iReady. So that's really promising for us to be able to see that in our curriculum. Okay, examples of how we are achieving and reaching our goals for goal number 3. We are really big on demonstrating lessons. I know you guys have heard that from me before. We do it every year. We love it. And we also are encouraging our teachers to also do it too. So when we go into classrooms and we see certain teachers are addressing a topic or a key skill in a certain way, and we're like, that is really good. We're trying to encourage our teachers to be able to show what they know with some of their colleagues. We really do focus focus on modeling around the pedagogy of confidence, universal design for learning, project-based learning to promote those high levels of student engagement. Some examples that we have engaged, that we've supported, encouraged, or modeled are with Socratic seminars, educational escape rooms. Think like an escape room that you would go to, but it's in the classroom, and we're not really escaping the classroom. We're more trying to get into a box that says you did it. It's fun. Diverse read alouds and how scholars read in class. We have in-person and active simulations with the Walk Through History organization that comes and conducts simulations in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. We have active games and interactive projects that immerse scholars in our learning. Each year, our 6th grade teachers host a heritage night. That's coming up. You'll get an invite. Our 7th grade scholars run the Chasqui Challenge that replicates the Inca relay messaging system. The 8th grade creates an individualized projects around their interests that relates to the National History Day project. Again, we talked about the administrator-led teaching. We actively teach units. So not only are we kind of modeling how, some practices, but when we were introduced to our new math curriculum, I really wanted to see what it looked like. And so I jumped into a few classes. I did a 1st grade class and a 4th grade class, and I learned a lot. A lot in terms of what our teachers are engaging in, and then also how we can support them to really enrich that curriculum in the classroom. We do a lot of staff collaboration and data analysis. So staff meetings are dedicated to reviewing learner profile, student data, and next steps in improving scholar success. We started this last year after we learned from how to do it with the staff development team at the district, and how to engage in creating learner profiles from the scholar-based academic data that we can receive from our curriculum data and from our assessments. From this information, we look at the curriculum and see how to enhance the lessons to ensure they're accessible to all students. So in looking at the learner profile, we compare it to how the lessons in our curriculum or our supplemental materials are addressing the needs of our scholars. And if we feel that there's any kind of adjustments, we call it a lesson remix, where we adjust and we provide additional support so that it's fully accessible to all of our scholars in the classroom. As you guys know, we're engaging in our SMART goals and driven practices. So every 6 weeks, we look at our data, we create new SMART goals that are measurable, we track our progress, and that guides our next steps. This has been incredibly helpful in looking closely at the data and creating meaningful approaches towards supporting students. We go a step further with these SMART goals by conducting a gallery walk after each cohort engages in data collection. So we have it split between K2, TK kind of is doing their own thing with Ann Barriafa. So we do K2 SMART goals. We have 3-5 that's run by Mr. Konigsberg, and then middle school. And then what we do is we all come together. Oops, I'm sorry. All come together after we've charted kind of our aha moments and our next steps on poster boards, and we do a gallery walk to see where the trends lie. As a TK8 school, it's important for us to see these trends as the grade levels increase, to find opportunities to target our attention and support, and to work collaboratively in addressing these needs. We also use the interim assessments with our curriculum and with SBAC. And we have, as I said, we talked about, we use SVMI, so Silicon Valley Math Initiative resources, the Math Assessment Resource Services, which is also known as MARS, and Problem of the Month to enhance those problem-solving skills. We love this resource as it really supports teaching scholars how to explain their thinking, and it provides a very clear insight for our teachers to see how scholars attack a math problem, building on those mathematical practices. And in addition to this year, supported by our parent community, we have brought Math Olympiad, the Math Olympiad program, to grades 3, 4, and 5. I don't know if we have any Math Olympiads. It's been around for a really long time. To really strengthen our mathematical reasoning and fluency. And with the support of our family community, We've been able to bring this to our school, and it is wildly successful. You'll see a photo of our kids getting really excited for their Math Olympiad Day. We hope that this provides a level of enrichment for our scholars to seek in math, in addition to the enriching activities that are occurring in the classroom. And we also have Study Buddies, which is a program that provides peer-assisted learning in math and literacy. Our community service scholars who are middle schoolers support first through third grade scholars who would benefit from individualized support. Like I said, we do a lot of literacy circles and book studies, which also promotes that differentiated learning. So our teachers can move around and meet with different groups. We also have an optional middle school book club that was just started by our ASB teacher lead, Anna Rivoli, this year, that the teachers are super excited about. Really what we're trying to do is provide a lot of opportunities for students to get excited for learning, and to want to dive deeper into like what can they do next in ELA and math. We also provide audiobooks and audio options, as well as graphic novels to support equitable access for students who might need alternative literacy resources. And we have an annual STEAM fair. So we just did that, and we have 3 students who are going to the San Mateo County STEM Fair with a few students from North Star. We're super excited for this opportunity. Just something to note that we started it last year. This is our 2nd year. We doubled the amount of participants from last year. So I'm just hoping it's going to keep going. I keep hitting this microphone. We encourage academic driven field trips. Yeah, I mean, we're doing a lot at Roy Cloud. We are working to support all of our scholars and their individual needs. And we can here's some pictures. So what is that top left? That's our Math Olympiads. They're super excited. Next to them is an example of how we do an escape room. The whiteboards that are under it is an example of how we do vertical learning. The row of photos underneath them, those are all of our STEM fair kiddos. We do lots of student-led presentations and debates. On the right is some of our SVMI work. Next one. At the top there, that's an example of how we do our gallery walks after we do our data dives and our SMART goals. A screenshot of a slide is how we started the year, really engaging in how to build a belonging classroom, looking at ways to promote that student engagement through Jigsaw, the Jigsaw model, connecting at the door, Socratic seminars, supporting that noticing and wondering conversation, and to promote our buddy program. We talked about pedagogy of confidence, and within that, they have these thinking maps that have really helped our students tailor their thinking and drill down into how they want to utilize a graphic organizer to help expand in their writing. And so right in the center there, that's an example. That's a 3rd grade example, which I was really impressed with. And then next to that is a Socratic seminar outside. We did it outside. It happened to be really nice, and the classrooms can be a little cramped when we do those Socratic seminars. And then here's a really creative way that our 3rd grade teachers engage in some literacy practice and exploration. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. That's our presentation.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melissa and Jason, for the presentation. I really appreciate it. I'm going to turn to the board members for questions, comments, or discussion. I will point out the time just so that we're mindful of it. We heard earlier that administrators work till 11 o'clock at night. So that means they have 2 more hours of work ahead of them. So let's be very, considerate of their time, and but by all means, ask your questions and discussions. Yeah.
I'll go. I really don't have any questions. I just want to express appreciation. First, apologies for drawing the short straw. I know that it's a late night, as indicated, but really appreciate you guys making the time to give the presentation today and to be engaged and to give us all this information, and obviously also to do the work. Just really appreciate a lot of the thinking. I can tell from this that, even if you're seeing good results, it's clear that you're not being complacent, right? You're thinking ahead to what else can we do. So just really want to appreciate that. I can tell some of the things that I really enjoyed hearing about were the approach to the buy-in for expectations at the beginning of the year, the creativity with the escape rooms, and then I was not in Math Olympiad, but I was in Math Counts, which I think is probably analogous. And I also do a math test every year with my family for fun. So certainly in the pool of big old nerds, and I say that most lovingly, in the most lovingly way. So certainly appreciate that. Reach out to the students.
I will reach out to you when we have our Math Olympiad. You can come join us.
I would
one day.
love that.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Principal Melissa and VP Jason. I also just wanted to I'm glad to see a bunch of girls on the Math Olympiad team right there in the photo, and also on their little science fair presentations down there. So good job with that. You know, you mentioned the inclusivity, and I think this is part of it here. This is not something we need to discuss tonight, but I think the LPAC slide is misrepresented. Did anybody else misunderstand it? I know you don't have a lot of students, but I don't think all those zeros are correct, or am I misunderstanding?
We don't have emerging multilinguals in every grade. So that's probably where some of the zeros were
Okay,
coming
because then I
from.
think then your average number becomes much smaller than, doesn't reflect kind of but we can look at that later.
Okay.
Thank you for the presentation. It's wonderful to hear everything that you're doing. I do want to point out, I appreciate hearing you, Melissa, say the pedagogy of confidence like 5 or 6 times, if not 7. So I appreciate that, because that's one of the biggest things. I know that different schools, you know, some use it, some don't, but I do think that's a really good, I don't know, model to use. So I appreciate Roy Cloud using it. The audiobooks, when you refer to them as support, are we talking, I guess if you could just explain a little bit more on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So sometimes when we're doing novel studies in the classroom, sometimes the students need some time to receive the chapter that they're going to read in a different way. And so what our especially our middle school teachers are doing is they are kind of front loading by they find if we can't find a true audiobook, we'll use YouTube because there's lots of resources on there where people are reading the different chapters of the novel study that they're engaging in. So what they'll do is they'll place it on Google Classroom. Students then can access it there so that they can listen to it while also following along. So they can do it in whatever really way that makes the most sense to them. So if it is the night before, they can listen to the audiobook while they are following along, or they can just listen to it so that the next day they can come in prepared to engage in the conversation of the chapter that they're going to be reading together. It also is, you know, where if they're doing any kind of independent reading where they can, you know, put their headphones on and as they're reading along in the book, they can listen to it as well. It's just, it provides an additional access point because sometimes, you know, our scholars just need a little help in that where we're just reading the words on the paper. You know, sometimes they need to do it a few times. So it's just to provide them that additional thing if they need it.
Great. And then the other thing that I wrote down, I really like the study buddies, because I think that gives students a sense of, you know, you're helping your buddy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's really nice. And then of course the student-led presentations. I think again that leads to, you know, leadership skills down the line. So I appreciate everything that you guys do.
Thank you.
And that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Weekly, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just short comment that I really, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, just a short comment that I really appreciate the hunger to continue improving results, to continue looking at like, what can we try next? When will we see the results? And to really have the school itself be learning about the process of teaching and what's working, what's not. So just, I appreciate that attitude that comes through really clearly, and the data grounding that's here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Yeah, no, it's great presentation. Thank you for coming and staying so late. We will try and wrap this up really quickly. Love actually,
Melissa, this is your third year here.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for choosing Redwood City. It's clear that you made a great community up there at Roy Cloud and are making a real difference. So just excited to see everything that's happening there. Love the focus on belonging, a whole child, and really making sure the kids want to learn, love to learn. I think it's one of the most important things we can do in the, up through 8th grade. To really set people up for success in high school. And it was really interesting. Thanks for sharing about your SLC class in middle school and the inclusive practices that are going on there. I think that's really, really exciting to hear about it, and look forward to hearing about how that goes over the future years. Pass it off to Dr. Baker.
Well, Melissa and Jason, thank you so much. But first of all, thank you so much for each of you taking the initiative. I know Melissa has done this since she started, but going into the classrooms and demonstrating lessons, that shows your vulnerability. You're getting in there with the teachers and what the teachers are asked to do. You're showing that you can do it. So it makes you very vulnerable. So I really appreciate that you're both in there. And I've heard some really great things, definitely about Melissa when she started doing this. And I know, Jason, you're doing the same thing, I think, at is it the younger elementary level?
I did a 5th grade. I modeled a 5th grade lesson and a couple middle school lessons so far.
Good.
So, yeah.
That's great. That's really great to hear. The other piece is the learning profiles, which I'm really interested to learn more about. It's something where you get to understand more of what that child needs and how are you going to be able to meet those needs. So kudos for you for doing that. Again, thanks so much. It's fun visiting Cloud. I guess that was my last. Yeah, my last round was Cloud. Now we're on a different round now with another 3 schools. But thank you so much. And just let us know when you're having the different types of activities, that the gallery walks, the learning profiles, and so forth, so that we can come up and observe them. It'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I just want to shout out to the staff development team because we got that idea from one of the UDL, the workshops that they ran last year.
Great. Good.
Yeah, it was really great. We get a lot from those trainings.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. It's 9:25. Go.
Thank you so much again. Yeah, have a good night. Yeah, thanks. Does anyone want to break? I imagine we have about 20 minutes left of agenda. Should we just keep going? Is that okay with everyone here ready? Keep going? Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so we're on to the consent items. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the consent items.
Okay, that was a second from Jen. All in favor? Aye. Okay, great. Then we'll move on to action items. 13.1 is acceptance of the Redwood City Teachers Association Sunshine proposal.
Yes, thank you. Similar to CSEA President Maria Stockton, we had a wonderful day of union negotiations. We're opening up February, so this particular action item is for RCTA, these next 2 items. And this will start the first stage of the negotiation process is board approval. Are there any questions regarding the Sunshine proposal from RCTA?
Any questions, comments, or anything to discuss? Looks pretty standard. So is there a motion? This is an action item. So this time, we'll ask if there's a motion to approve.
So
In a second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, great. Then we are on to 13.2, which is the receipt of the governing board's initial proposal for negotiations with RCTA.
Yes, the items identified are the district's initial proposal for opening up negotiations, which is intended to start on February 25th with our CTA. Any questions regarding this one?
Nope. Great. Okay. Thanks, Wendy. Look forward to seeing productive and collaborative discussions, and balancing all the needs of the students, community, staff, and everything that goes through. So is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve 13.2.
And a second. All right. All in favor? Aye. Okay, we can move on to board and superintendent reports. Anyone have things to report?
I don't have something to report that I attended to, but I do want to just bring it out to everyone's attention. I am part of the Oye planning committee, and so Oye is a youth conference that happens at Cañada College every year. And that is happening on March 22nd. It's a Saturday. Let me see if I'm telling you the right. Yes, March 22nd, 8:30 till about 2 o'clock. We do need volunteers, so you're welcome to come and join us.
All right, thanks for letting us know. Jen or David, anything to report?
Very quickly, was able to go to Adelante Selvi, where Director Warren, where showed me around, got to see the sites, got to see the classes, great learning, was really helpful for me to see a lot of the consistency and kind of the learning that went on kind of in the different, there's some similarities across classrooms and consistency, but also their own style. So it was very good to see and helpful for me. And I think they're also very appreciative or looking forward to the HVAC installations. So as I'm sure we all are. Separately went to the 5 Minutes Who Need Us program, the graduation. Talked to Cecilia about this. I think we'll look forward to trying to coordinate with them a little bit more to the extent we can, just to help keep the community engaged, especially for the Spanish speakers. But again, that was also really nice to see. One other thing, maybe for Rick, I'm sure you're following closely already, but I know that there's the budget omnibus trailer bill, which was recently released, which is obviously just a proposal. But one thing that stuck in my mind is that I know that there is some proposal for funds to be allocated specifically for reading and math kind of instructional coaches. So from what I've heard from all of our schools, big boost to the achievement through PD and instructional coaching, things like that. So something to keep in mind.
And I know what I forgot, and you too. We were part of the superintendent advisory committee, and so, yeah.
That's all right.
Speaking of the budget, today was the chamber education meeting, and Joan Dentler was there from Senator Becker's office. Maria Coliff was from Assemblymember Pappen, and Elise Lester was there from Assemblymember Berman, and they talked about some of the budget plus the education bills that were affecting education from the last year, and then some of the proposals that a few of them, none of them have put together what their final package is for legislation this year, but what they were kind of looking at. I might be able to come in, so that was interesting to hear about. And then I also attended the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, where the committee did its duty and discussed some of the bond programs, reviewed some of the bond expenditures, and I don't know if they took any action on it. I can't remember if anything had to be approved this time. I think it was mostly just discussion items. Yeah.
Minutes. That's good.
I toured.
Let's see.
David. Check. Mic check.
David, hang on. I got to turn my volume up and then, okay, try it.
Check. Mic check. Cool. I toured Hoover, Taft, and Garfield and met with the respective principals, inspected the classrooms. I've got a bunch of notes from that I haven't sent out yet, but I will write up. That was really helpful. Just one note from that, spotted at all 3 sites were a bunch of the improvements to the food program that have gone live. I sampled some very tasty chicken tinga that was freshly locally cooked at Taft, for instance. That was very nice, and got a number of generally pretty positive comments about how that was rolling out. But yeah, I'll write up my notes in more detail there, but it was really nice just to get to connect more with our school sites and with our principals.
Great. Dr. Baker.
All of mine have been mentioned. They've all been mentioned.
Outstanding. Okay.
Thanks.
So we've made it through. So now we're on to information items. Rick, I think I'm turning this over to you to sort of walk us through it. Can we do them all? Can we do them all together?
Yeah, it's just information. So items 15, 1, 2, and 3 are Rocky Ship, Redwood City Connect, KIP respectively, their first interim financial report and the letter on behalf of Redwood City to them. Items 15, 4, 5, and 6, Rocket Ship Connect and KIP respectively, is their audit report and the letter on behalf of RCSD to them.
Did anyone have questions or anything that you need clarification for? I don't think so. This is pretty standard. We see this yearly. So great. Well, thank you to, oh, wait, sorry.
David, did you have? No. Okay, great. Thanks, Rick, to your office. You have a lot of hats to wear and like responsibilities as everybody does in education. So appreciate the work that you all did there. Moving on to correspondence. Does anyone have correspondence? I wanted to mention one thing. I got invited. Healthy Cities Tutoring is having an event on March 8th. Did everybody get that invitation? Okay, great. Because I can't make it, and I just wanted to see if somebody else was able to make it from the board. If you can, I don't think it's a requirement, but it's probably nice if someone could go. Anyone?
Fundraiser.
Yeah, it's a fundraiser. Yeah. Okay. Any other correspondence worth?
Just the correspondence that we all received and I responded back.
Right. I think we had public comment similar. Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Moving on. Other business suggested items for future agenda. None. Okay. Board meeting calendar.
Right. We need to talk about that.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's in regard to the parcel tax, and we had a conversation, and
Okay.
we haven't talked since. You see, we spoke on Monday to
Yeah.
but we need to meet. I think what we should do is Carlo and Ben and Jessica, and then
Right.
and bring
Okay.
it to the board.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Evelyn, are there changes to the board meetings calendar?
Yes, there's a closed session added on February 26th, 5:45.
Cool.
2 items too, so we have to watch our times, Mary. There's
Okay.
2 items.
Will you need more time? I know SPED requested an hour, so I'm not sure if.
It can't be an hour.
Okay.
I will. I'll talk to Sven about that.
Okay.
Okay. Coming up. And did you send out a calendar invite? I can't remember. Yeah. Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you. Okay,
Jason
awesome.
said you did.
All right. We're on to 19.1, adjourn the meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Sorry, but
No, go ahead. Come back.
just going back to the count, this is not an added thing for future, but just out of curiosity, do we have dates for, I know Connect did their thing. Is there a renewal hearings scheduled or?
You mean the renewal approval?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
As of right now, it's February 26th.
Okay. Oh, so that's very much coming up.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know that there's a big renewal thing. Are the other charters, where do they fall in the pipeline? Is that like next year or?
It's next year, if I'm not
KIP
mistaken.
is 27, they go through 27, and Rocket Ship is either 26 or 27, but I'll confirm.
Okay, not a big deal. Not this year. No.
Yeah, not this year.
Okay.
This is the only one for renewal.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. 19.1, adjourn the meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn? All right, then move motion to second. It's a second. All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, we're adjourned.
Perfect.
Bye, folks.